Hey, Elmer.
Hey, Mark.
Good to
It's
see
to
you,
be back
brother.
again.
Yeah, it's good to have you back
Thank
again.
you.
It's
Thank
good to
you.
be here with you.
I appreciate the work that you've done since we last met. See, we have impeach, convict, remove, so it's going to be a
Oh,
part of our
you're
background.
talking about the elephant in the room over
The
here?
elephant in the room, exactly what we have reference.
I suppose a few of you might have mentioned, noticed the sign behind us. We're trying to make a point, and we're trying to keep making the point until everybody else is with us making the point. Because if everybody, the 52% of the voters in the country who support impeachment are with us and they're doing the same thing, they're using that phone number every day to make a few phone calls.
And what's the percent of Republicans included in that?
20%.
That's very important.
I think it says right there on the sign, you see there?
I'll leave it
It
there.
says 20% of Republicans right there.
202-224-3121.
Right.
Mark it in your memory.
Yeah.
Remember it in your marking.
I know we sound a little bit like an infomercial, but I know that you and I both really feel strongly that this particular set of actions is a very constitutional way.
And that's a dangerous word. We're trying to remove the danger from it. We have a right for it to be constitutional, and we're going to advocate it.
Yeah.
We owe it to ourselves. We are here to be honest with ourselves and let you know what our podcasting is about.
Yeah.
We are very much interested in impeaching, convicting, and removing the President of the United States, and we're not alone in it.
Yeah. Right. That's the essence of what we're talking about here. Obviously, I kind of think we're going off and we're going on and on about it, and I'm sorry, but we're going to continue to do that because it's just too important not to.
We have information to justify what we're saying, and we need the support of the listening and watching audience to just do that.
I think it might be interesting for our audience right now to bring in some information that maybe not top of mind these days with all the developments that are going on in the country, you know, with the president trying to commandeer the National Guard in the entire country, take away the sanctity of the control of the National Guard within the states, you know, and he started with California to start with, but it doesn't end there.
And it's spreading to other major cities in the United States. They're known as blue cities or blue states.
Yeah. A dictator is going to need the whole country in order to, impose his will on the population, which is what is happening right now.
We have to prepare our reaction to that, and we owe it to ourselves to do that. What do we have on the screen here we want to share with our audience?
Let us read this here. Trump Organization conviction. Now, a lot of people may not even have ever heard of this, even though it should have been front page news and extremely disqualifying to anybody running for any office anywhere in this great nation at any time, let alone the President of the United States. The Trump Organization conviction. The Trump Organization was found guilty on all charges in a 15-year tax fraud scheme.
That is correct. December the 6th, 2022.
The jury convicted two of its subsidiaries, Trump Corp. And Trump Payroll Corp. On 17 counts. That's all 17 that were used in the indictment, including conspiracy, criminal tax fraud, and falsifying business records. Elmer, anybody in history, what would happen to them? They announced their candidacy for the presidency. This information comes out. What happens to them?
It would have been over. But today, we are entering a time where the unbelievable is believable or it's real.
Do you think it's because everybody sees all these Netflix movies about governments and corruption, and they think, oh, this just reminds me of a Netflix film, so I guess it's okay for Trump to do this?
I remember some of my teaching from graduate school. Some things are so, but not necessarily so. So we're taking what we've seen on the screen of television, and it's becoming part of our reality.
I really think a lot of people saw Donald Trump on The Apprentice.
And it's a factor in his being the president of the United States and being the administrator of the government.
Yeah, because you could say, you're fired. And oh boy, he's You know, that whole thing was staged. It was a script. It was written for him. It wasn't about his real business at all.
And
None of it.
and
It was
that's
all fake.
that's because
Oh, it was really fake news. I mean, beyond fake news. Wasn't even trying to be news.
Donald Trump was impeached for the first time on December 18th, 2019 by the House of Representatives. The two articles of impeachment levied against him were, and you can read the rest of that for yourself there, Mark.
Abuse of power related to allegations that Trump unlawfully solicited Ukrainian authorities to influence the 2020 U.S. presidential election by investigating his political rival, Joe Biden, and his son, Hunter Biden. And as I recall, they made a great case in the House of Representatives demonstrating all of this evidence. And when that particular impeachment process went to the Senate, Mitch McConnell, who is the Senate leader, said, I am not bringing in a single witness to testify to the veracity and the factual nature of these accusations. And therefore, it was easier for the senators, all of the Republicans, not to vote for impeachment, and for impeachment in the Senate in the trial phase, because how it goes, folks, is that the House of Representatives is responsible for the impeachment process itself, to bring the articles of impeachment and to vote on those. And once they get a majority there, they bring the trial to the Senate. And the Senate, under the auspices of the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, who operates the trial, they have to view the evidence and the submissions before them to determine whether or not the president is guilty of high crimes and misdemeanors.
So Mitch McConnell set this up for Donald Trump.
He sure did. He really did. Yeah.
Mitch McConnell, you owe us.
Mitch McConnell owes us
So
big
here
time.
we are.
Yeah, among so many others now who are his new supplicants. So in addition to abuse of power and investigating his political rival, Joe Biden, and his son Hunter, the other article of impeachment in the first Trump impeachment was obstruction of Congress, stemming from Trump's refusal to comply with congressional subpoenas and his administration's withholding of documents and testimony during the impeachment inquiry. What do
Here
you
we
think?
are. It seems like we're going to have to live with it against our will, but not to the extent that we're not going to react to it with what we're doing now. We
Yeah.
owe it to ourselves to make it be known how illegal this is and how we got here against our will. This is the greatest country on the face of the earth, so let's be honest with ourselves and point out the weaknesses and the faults that we find in the electing of the president and his remaining in office. Impeach, convict, remove. Let's don't forget that.
Fundamental mantra of the majority of American citizens, of the voters, actually, majority of voting eligible citizens of the United States. So then Trump was impeached again. You want to read that one for us, Elmer?
Donald Trump was impeached for the second time on January 13, 2021, following the January 6 United States Capitol attack. The House of Representatives adopted a single article of impeachment against him, incitement of insurrection. Trump was again acquitted by the Senate on February 9, 2021, after he had left office with a vote of 57 to 43 on this single article, falling short of the 67 votes needed for conviction.
So keep in mind, folks, that 57 of 100 senators voted to convict Donald Trump of his crimes of insurrection. 43 of them voted against it, and one of them was Mitch McConnell, who at the time, as I recall, had clearly stated that Trump was in fact single-handedly responsible for the attack on the Capitol.
He stated that earlier. I don't know what happened over the period of time for him to change his mind, and he's still there.
His excuse and his way of weaseling out of it, Elmer, was the fact that he said, well, because the Constitution allows that even though you're impeached, all that does is remove you from office. But the Constitution goes on to state very clearly that anybody who is impeached is still subject to criminal prosecution.
It's a major factor.
And so that was McConnell's way of weaseling out of voting to convict Trump for his impeachable crimes, and bringing a number of senators with him, because they probably could have gotten to 67 votes to impeach Trump and convict him of the impeachment.
McConnell didn't want it to get that far. He just didn't want that to happen.
He did everything in his power to make it not happen, and he was successful, even though we all saw with our own, what people will call nowadays, your own lying eyes. You saw those people smashing the windows in there and beating cops with flagpoles and all kinds of other stuff, spraying them with bear spray, knocking them down, beating the heck out of them. Several officers died as a result of their injuries, and a number of them committed suicide afterward because of their extraordinary stress and I don't know why they killed themselves, but I'm assuming they just felt so despondent after being attacked by their fellow citizens.
They didn't want to live any longer after having gone through that. They didn't want it to make it real, and it was real. They had to sleep with themselves. I can imagine the dreams that they had following that insurrection. It's so sad.
And
they did it for all of us who believe in democracy.
And then they went ahead and held the vote, and there were a number of Republicans who objected to the vote. Let's see, Ted Cruz comes to mind right away as an objector to counting the votes, because Trump kept telling everybody, and a lot of people still believe to this very day, including Trump pretends to believe. He doesn't believe it, but he knows he can get other people to believe anything he says, so he will just keep the lie going that the 2020 election was stolen. Well, I would submit maybe if there was an election that was stolen, if it could have been stolen, Trump would have stolen it.
He would have stolen himself.
And I would say that he very likely stole this 2024 election, and I think that may come out as time goes by with his great assistant, Elon Musk.
He had plenty of time to do it.
And a lot of money.
And
a lot of technology behind him. But let's just say that didn't happen just for grins, and let's just go on to some of these other things that are happening. I wanted to point out that the Democratic representative from the 13th District in Michigan, Sri Tanandar, unveiled 7 articles of impeachment against Donald Trump on April 28th, 2025, going along with our consideration here behind us, in case you hadn't noticed our sign. So anyway, on April 28th, 2025, Tanandar introduced these articles of impeachment. And then let's not forget this one. Elmer, do you want to inform our audience
Trump
about
hush money verdict, guilty of 34 counts, AP News. May 31, 2024, Donald Trump became the first former president to be convicted of felony crimes, as a New York jury found him guilty of all 34 charges in a scheme to illegally influence the 2016 election.
remarkable?
That's in our record. That's in our record. We have to live with it. We can't change that. It's there.
So, Trump just told everybody, well, it's just a witch hunt, and it's just the weaponization of the Department of Justice, and blah, 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 blah.
He said it so much people began to believe it.
Yeah, I think a lot of his followers are prone to believe anything he says before he even says it, because they've been sucked up into a cult. They don't even know it. But that's my opinion, but let that be what it may. The fact still remains that the majority of people in this country want this to happen. Impeach, convict, remove.
And that does include some Republicans. Enough to matter.
20%.
20% does matter.
It's a big deal. Let's bring up one more little topic here. It says Colorado bars Trump from the ballot. You want to read that section?
Oh, I'd like to. In December 2023, the Colorado Supreme Court ruled that the former President Donald Trump was disqualified from serving as U.S. President and could not appear on the primary ballot in Colorado due to his role in the January 6, 2021 attack on the United States Capitol. The court based its decision on the United States Constitution Insurrection Clause, specifically Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which bars individuals who have engaged in insurrection from holding office. The court acknowledged the unprecedented nature of the decision, stating that it did not reach its conclusion lightly and was mindful of the magnitude of the issue.
Yeah. So
Very important.
this is a Supreme Court of the state of Colorado. A number of the members upon that Supreme Court were appointed by Republican people, and they really weighed heavily this notion. Was Trump actually engaged in an insurrection? Was there enough evidence to constitute proof in their minds? And they said yes.
They did.
They did say yes, and I watched it on television, and I say yes, even without any of the background evidence. And then I took some time, and I watched almost every minute of the, I think it was 8 episodes, if you will, of the January 6th committee impeachment hearings. Now, a lot of people who, watch Fox News for their, the Fox Propaganda Network for their steady diet of information, which is the genuine fake news. I don't even think Rupert Murdoch ever pretended not to be completely biased in his program. The word news doesn't not apply here. But the important thing is that where was I going with this? It's the fact that the Supreme Court in the Colorado case really contemplated this, and they came up with this notion, the decision that Donald Trump was an insurrectionist and he was guilty and not qualified to be on the ballot in Colorado. But what happened then, we all may know, if you don't only watch Trump News, the Fox insurrection, the Fox network. However, right, the court stayed its decision until January 4th, or until the Supreme Court ruled on the case, recognizing the need to settle the issue by January 5th, which was the deadline for the state of Colorado to print its presidential primary ballots. Then, what happened, Elmer?
Subsequently, the United States Supreme Court rejected attempts to ban Trump from the 2024 ballot, restoring him to the presidential primary ballot. The Supreme Court ruled that states cannot invoke the post-Civil War constitutional provision to keep the presidential candidate from appearing on the ballot, emphasizing that the determination of ineligibility under Section 3 must be made by Congress through appropriate legislation. There we have it.
Well, there you have their ruling. However, a very careful or even a cursory reading of what it actually says in the Constitution of the United States, Article 14, Section 3, it says here, no person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elector of president and vice president or hold any office or military under the United States or under any state who, having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States, like maybe the president, for example, or as a member of any state legislature or as an executive or judicial officer of any state to support the Constitution of the United States shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same, meaning the government, or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. But Congress may, by a vote of 2/3 of each house, the House of Representatives and the Senate, remove such disability. In other words, they could restore to the perpetrator, in this case, the insurrectionist Donald J. Trump, the Congress could restore his right to hold office again in the United States.
In spite of what we just read.
And they never did that. And they never had to disqualify him because the Constitution states that it doesn't require Congress at all to make this determination. all we have to do, as in the Colorado Supreme Court case, is find it. And they were presented with a great deal of evidence supporting the fact that Donald Trump did in fact engage in an insurrection. And, it's kind of interesting to me, Elmer, because I try to talk to people who don't agree with me politically, people who are in fact Trump supporters.
I try to do that too. That's why I watch more Fox than you do.
Yeah, thanks for doing that, because I have a limit as to what I can take. What do you think of Jessica Tarlow, by the way, anyway?
I try to avoid thinking in that vein, period.
No, well, actually, Jessica's the one on there. That's all the one that kind of the adult in the room, and then you got all the people around her going, no. Which she's talking about the facts and the information, and they're going, oh no, we don't deal in facts and information. Anyway, the point is here that for me is that Donald Trump is lying about almost everything that he's doing, and he said, oh, guess what? If you live in, particularly an oil-rich company, because you're much more likely to have the cash, but if you want to just sign up on his website and send him $5.5 million, you can bring you and your 10 family members over and become a citizen.
He's keeping it simple.
Are we worried about criminals in that case? Hell no.
Doesn't cross his mind at all.
Well, I mean, he probably has a little slight bias towards wanting criminals, because birds of a feather.
They do flock together.
Yes, they do.
It's on my poetry.
Well, we got to be this blunt, folks, because the folks that are trying to take back our country to some Stone Age, make America gasp again kind of state. The 1850s or the 1950s or the 1750s or whatever they're trying to go back to, probably isn't an ideal state for us anymore.
So don't forget to impeach, convict, and remove Donald Trump as President of the United States. I do hope that we have informed you and that you will continue to watch us, because we have much more to offer than you have heard tonight. So we look forward to many more podcasting experiences with you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Elmer. It's been great.
And
thank you, everybody, for watching. Even if there's only 2 or 3 of you so far, we're obviously not professional podcasters. I think one definition of a professional might be that, you get paid.
We don't get paid. We owe ourselves.
Yeah. So maybe you go, yeah, well, I can see why, but hopefully not. And if you do want to come back and see us again, we'll keep doing this. Even if you don't, we'll keep doing it, because we want to encourage other people to do what we're doing. And, especially if you're going, hey, these guys suck. We could do a much better job. Please do help us recover our democracy. We need everybody out here howling at the moon so that everybody is paying attention.
Recovering our democracy is one of our objectives. Let's keep that in mind.
Yes, sir. Once again,
appreciate you, Mark.
Beautiful, man.
We'll
See you next time.
I'll be here.